Nicole, how was the contact first made? Did it come through Sidney Pollack and Tom to you for the offer from Stanley to do Eyes Wide Shut?
He actually sent me the script. He was having a whole conversation through fax with Tom, which I wasn't that aware of, you know. I mean, I knew that Kubrick was talking to him and stuff, but I wasn't. They'd been faxing each other for well over a year. And I was in the middle of doing Portrait of a Lady, actually finishing it, so I was in London. And I got this call saying Stanley wants to send you, it was Stanley's assistant saying he wants to send a script, where shall we send it? And there's a letter. And I was stunned. And they said, and you've got to make sure that you'll be at the house at this particular time to receive it and everything. And I said, okay, okay. And he sent me this letter, which I've kept, which I've subsequently got filed, that said, I'd love you to play Alice Harford. I think you'd be perfect in the role. Please read it. Make sure you're sitting down when you read it. You're not distracted. You're rested. And call me and tell me what you think. And that was basically what happened.
Had Tom read it at that point or not? It came to you rather than to Tom?
No, it came to him as well. He got a copy of the script as well. So, and then I heard from my agent that Stanley had been calling for about 9 months for different tapes of my work and had been seeing things, and so obviously I had no idea, and my agent hadn't told me because it wasn't a job offer or anything. It was just sort of interest, I think. And that's how, obviously, that's how it evolved.
Did you make the private journey to St Albans to meet and talk to him then?
Yes.
What was your first impression of him when you met him?
I remember thinking, well, he's sort of scruffy. and he was wearing a jacket, and he had the most extraordinary eyes you've ever seen on a human being, I think would be the perfect way. And his daughter has those eyes too. But they're hooded eyes. And they look at you and they have this quite mischievous quality, and yet they're very, they have a great sense of having lived.
And did you get the feeling that he was seeing things in you that other people hadn't seen?
No, I was just terrified that he was going to fire me. I was thought he was going to take one look at me and say, well, oh gosh, what was I thinking? This woman is not right for the role. And say, look, we've got to part ways. I had that fear for about the first month of knowing him, because I was very nervous around him, partly because I was so in awe of him, and then just because I have in the film very big monologues, 2 very big monologues that I thought were going to be very, very difficult, and I thought if he ever sees me do them, he's not going to want me in the film. So, so there's my insecurities as an actor. But over the course of time, I became so confident with him. I mean, he just gave me such confidence as an actor, and really allowed me such freedom as an actor. He would say, okay, you've done a few takes, now you can just do what you want to do. And I'd heard all these stories about him being incredibly controlling and not wanting this and not wanting that. And at certain times he was very controlling. At other times he was pleased just, and particularly with the monologues, is when he allowed me just to really just get lost in Alice. And I think that's what happened. I mean, over the course of the 1.5 years, I just, you know, became that woman. You became her. I mean, in a weird way. I mean, I know that sounds ridiculous, because obviously I am who I am, but you know, as an actor you set up, there's reality and there's pretend, and those lines get crossed, and it happens when you're working with a director that allows that to happen. And it's a very exciting thing to happen. It's a very dangerous thing to happen as well. And when it does happen, I think that's when the work becomes it becomes so much more than just making a film.
You see, this must be a lifetime experience. You probably will never make a film under these circumstances again, like
No.
this, will you?
No.
And it's probably still very fresh in your mind. You probably need some years to recall what it was actually like. What I'd like to hear from you, though, is I'm not interested in, you know, the stories about 50 takes. I understand why he went to 50 takes.
And sometimes didn't.
What
you know.
Sure.
So it was very unpredictable. It was always unpredictable.
What I'd like to know from you, though, is what you were feeling as a person and as an actor as he took you beyond what anybody would say would be an ordinary number of attempts at a particular piece of performance.
I think you go through all sorts of emotions. I mean, Stanley always was waiting for something to happen, and he wasn't as interested in naturalistic acting as he was in something that, for whatever reason, surprised him or piqued his interest. That's when he would go, ah, okay, now we're on to something. And he was always interested in exploring things, that there was no right and wrong in relation to making a film, a performance. It wasn't about, well, this is the right way to do it and this is the wrong way to do it. It was about exploring all facets of it so that then he could go into the editing room and edit it. That's what I perceive it as. So as an actor, you as long as you relaxed into the situation and said, okay, I'm going to go with this, then it was the most wonderful experience, because you didn't ever walk away from the set feeling, oh, I didn't get it. Oh, if only he'd let me have one more, maybe we would have discovered something. He made sure that he discovered everything there was to discover in the material.
Did you find yourself surprising yourself with new things?
It's by doing a lot of takes, and also by being so close to him and to Tom. I was constantly surprising myself, but I was very relaxed. So a lot of the time when the cameras were on, I wasn't even aware. You know, the awareness of all the other things, like people standing around and booms and cameras and stuff, was to the point where I wouldn't even notice it. I wouldn't even think about it. Which is a really difficult situation to get into. When you do it on a film for a small amount of time, it requires extraordinary concentration, and a lot of the time you don't achieve it because you're still aware, and you always have a feeling of, oh, I wish I'd just been able to try something else. Whereas with Stanley, you get to the stage where you don't notice any of it. Partly you're tired, which is actually a very good thing sometimes when you're acting, because it means that you're not trying to produce emotions or trying to be this or thinking this is how it should be. It just happens and just sort of comes out of you. It's very hard to explain. It's something that only a small number of people who have worked with Stanley understand, but it's almost like a club, because when you meet, and it's editors, it's production designers, it's DP, it's whoever has worked with him and experienced his intensity and his passion for filmmaking. They're the only people that truly understand it, and other actors.